Microphones are on. Recording on. Live stream on. Oh. Can I run? I'm going to get a water.
Run fast. Heels even, huh? Heels even, huh?
You ready?
I bring my own.
All right, good evening, everybody, and welcome. So tonight's meeting for Monday, October 14, 2024, the city's regular council meeting for the beginning of October. For the record, all staff are here who are required to be here. We are missing a couple of council members. Deputy Mayor Galvan and Councilor Vasquez have both informed me that they will be unable to attend this evening and have requested an excused absence. Is there any objection to that?
No objection for me.
Okay, so we will excuse those two. And Counselor Hart hasn't informed me one way or the other. I have not heard. I'm assuming that she's on her way. We can give her a few minutes if that's all right with the rest of council.
It's okay with me.
Very good. All right. So first item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. We've had the agenda before us now for a few days. As you've looked over it, is there any changes that we feel we need to make to the agenda this evening before we begin? Hearing none. All in favor of approving the agenda as presented, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, no. I also vote aye. Agenda is approved. Very good. Next item of business is invocation. Do we have somebody to give the invocation this evening? All right, please approach the microphone. I'm going to ask everyone to stand for the invocation and please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance immediately after.
Our Heavenly Father who art in heaven, we give thee thanks for this day thou hast blessed us with. And at this time, Heavenly Father, we pray and ask thy blessing upon this meeting, that things can get done in a right way, and that everything will work out well for the city council and for those that are here. Heavenly Father, please bless our city. We're thankful for this Sunnyside, our town, and we love our town, and we pray that thou will watch over all of us, and that we can continue to feel thy love upon all of us that are here. We love thee and our Savior, and thankful for all that we have. And this we ask for in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. All right, first item of business this evening, we get to give out some awards, and I understand somebody from Department of Ecology is here this evening to give an award to our water department. Is that correct? We have somebody. All right, please approach the microphone, state your name, and go forth to give the reward. This is something we're very proud of as a city, by the way. This has been going on for several years where our Department of Ecology has gotten an award, and we're pretty proud of this.
I'd like to invite the wastewater guys to come up if they're here, so they can be recognized.
Do we have anybody from the wastewater department here? Absolutely, guys. You guys can step up in here if you'd like, face the audience.
I'll stay here and you guys go up there.
Yay.
So just a few words. The Department of Ecology issues wastewater discharge permits to treatment plants across the state. And we like to recognize those who perform outstanding service throughout the year. So this is the calendar year 2023. And to get this award, you have to comply 100% with your permit, all the requirements. So this is both treating the water, all the water that's being discharged out of the plant is being treated up to standard water quality standards of the state. And also there's a lot of other requirements for the permit as far as reporting, testing, paperwork that it just is a lot. And I can testify that it's a lot. And I'll just say that these guys were perfect in everything for the whole year. This actually is a little bit bigger deal because it's a 5 consecutive years of receiving this award. So not just the 2023. That's just a long time to never have any hiccups, never have any mess ups, oh, I forgot to send in that report, or we forgot to do that test, or we had, bad water going out and it didn't pass the test. So there's just a lot going on that, and I recognize just a really outstanding job, both protecting the environment of Washington, which we love, clean water, clean air. We just love our state. But it's also a protection of your city's infrastructure, which is a big thing for you guys. And so you can be proud of the service that was done. So I'd like to thank these guys, and I would say their names, but I don't know them. Ro, you want to just say their names real quick?
Hugo Morales, Lorenzo Garza, Oscar Mendoza, Randy Peters, and Angel Prieto.
Thanks, guys.
So if you get together, clerk would like to get a picture of you guys. Do I get to be in the picture too? And I think council members should stand up and kind of get behind Ms. Prowse. Maybe you want to come around the front.
There is no way they'll see me.
No, you come around front.
Mike?
Want to get up there?
I'm not gonna stand in front of you guys, because I'll block you there.
That's there.
All right. Sorry.
Good job, man. Congratulations, David.
Nice to meet you.
Thanks for coming. That was real good. I'm gonna stay here.
Move that chair out of your way, Phil. You got it?
I have the great honor of presenting more awards. We've got a lot to be proud of in Sunnyside this evening. And so tonight I'd like to ask the 23-24 Miss Sunnyside Court to come forward. These young ladies have truly been ambassadors for the city of Sunnyside over the past year. They've done an excellent job. I've seen them at so many functions, and I've got to have my picture taken with them an awful lot, which is really awesome. One of them I've known since she was about so tall, but really have been impressed with these young ladies. And so I would like to present them with a mayor's coin for their service. And first, we're going to start with Queen Lila Rice. And then our Princess Maya Morales. And Princess Eve Garcia. As a community, we are very proud of these young ladies. It's been a privilege to get to know them over the past year, and we look for big things from them in the future. So thank you, ladies. Do I get to take my last picture with you? Okay.
Absolutely. Get in right in there.
You already know, Mayor. Got it.
Thank you so much. And then we've got the court that's outgoing, that served us so well, but we've also got an incoming court. I'm going to invite our 24-25 court to come forward. To see that last year's court has passed the crowns on already, and they're looking glorious in their crowns and sashes. So I did have a chance to get to know these girls a little bit at one ribbon cutting at an event yesterday. And I have great hopes for the future this coming year with them as well. They carry themselves well, they handle themselves well, and they speak well in front of an audience. So very, very good to see that. So our first, what we're going to be giving is a city pin. It's about so big. It's the first pin, I hope, that's on your sash. And they'll be getting city pins and other buttons and all sorts of stuff as they go throughout the year. So this is the City of Sunnyside pin, and I'm not going to try to stick it on them. That would be dangerous for everyone and awkward. So first, our Miss Sunnyside Queen, Serenity Ibarra. I guess I get your name right, so. All right, then first Princess Adrina Campos. And our second princess, Sol Mendoza. And our third princess, Taylor Hazen. Congratulations, you guys. We look forward to seeing what you guys are able to do this year. I know you've all got projects that you want to work on. You've got ideas for the float. And so it's going to be kind of exciting. We're really looking forward to it. So congratulations. And we're looking forward to it. Do I get my first picture with them now? Okay. That works. That works.
Right there.
And I don't know if the rest of council wants a picture with them.
We'll get our picture.
Okay. Okay. Thanks, you guys. On council, we have to take care of a lot of serious business all the time, but these are the fun events that we always look forward to. That and the ribbon cuttings and the other events such as yesterday's fundraiser. That was fun as well. You guys did an amazing job. So. All right. So the next item of business is the public comments, and I didn't pick up the sheet. Thank you, Rolf. And as we wait for the list to come, the citizens are advised that they must limit their remarks to the council to 3 minutes. Council may refer items to staff to review and or research for presentation at future council meetings. And if you give your number for follow-up, then a staff member will be in touch. And I was corrected that I'm a little slow on responding and maybe gave the idea that I was going to be a lot more active on that. All right, the first name on my list is Brenda Barrios.
My name is Brenda Barrios and I'm here representing a Sunnyside mom. My public comment contains a few thank you and recognitions. I just wanted to let you know how I'm grateful for the Sunnyside Parks and Rec program. I think it's really flourished in the past few years. I do have a 5-year-old son and he's been able to take advantage of T-ball starting last year, soccer this past summer fall. And he also did, they do a summer 10-week camp program at the community center. And at first I was a little worried about like, oh, where are these camp counselors? But I know that they work for the school district and they have their backgrounds checked. So as a mom, I felt comfortable sending my kid for a long time to a summer program. So I was previously a community coalition coordinator who tried to encourage families to take advantage of youth opportunities. And I don't ever recall Parks and Rec about like, I don't know, 8 or 9 years ago, having continuous programs like they do now, unless I'm mistaken. So I just wanted to thank all the parent volunteers that stepped up and helped coach. And I've only had positive experiences with the Sunnyside Parks and Rec. So because I'm a mom of a very active boy, I've had to sometimes go out of town to get him exposed to things, especially as a younger child. And sometimes I have to travel over half an hour. Luckily, I'm fortunate for that. Right now, I'm running the Healthy Kids Running Series, Lower Valley, which is a local running program for youth ages 2 to 14 that runs twice. I took this over and it happens at the Sunnyside Park and it's been going good. And I'm just thinking about growth and starting in October, the bathrooms are closed. And I'm just thinking about like to make our parks more accessible. there could be a reason why it's closed in October, but this past Sunday, there was other families there with their little ones. And there was no bathrooms for them, and it's such a isolated place, so my goal of improvement would be like, how do we make our parks more accessible, especially the ones that are so isolated? Also, with that series, I wanted to also thank other volunteers that came by, especially some people from the Lions Club's volunteers, the Lions Club. So one was Adrian from the Lobos FC soccer club. He also runs like a youth program, and again, these are all volunteers, and then the president Ray of Lions Club. So right now we have 39 kids registered and the family coming all the way from Tri-Cities. So also kind of thinking about tourism, if we want more things happening, how can we invest in our parks? All right, thank you.
Thank you. Next name on my list is Sherry Holden.
Hello. I'm Sherry Holden from Sunnyside, and I brought in a petition signed by over 60 seniors that use our local Sunnyside Senior Center on a daily basis. At your last general council meeting, it was brought up about the unsheltered people and the bad weather that may be coming up here soon. And someone said, maybe we could use the senior center. Yeah, well, the seniors heard that and got outraged, they got scared, they got excited, because it's like, where are we going to go? What are we going to do? So they asked me to write this petition. Do I have to read it to you? Or do I just want to hand it in?
You may do either, ma'am.
Can I just hand it
You
in?
may do that, yes.
My nerves are low.
Give it to Ro.
Okay.
Nope, totally understand.
But there is over 60 people, seniors that use it every day. And thank you, Brenda, for mentioning the Parks and Rec because they are coming back strong. Thank you.
Thank you. Next name on my list, and Ruben, I'm not gonna try to say your last name because I can hardly read it. Rivera, okay,
I'm here on, wrote a petition about 2 months ago from our, my neighbors, because a one-way route was put on Spalding, and it doesn't seem to work for the people that actually live there. And it actually makes it a hazard now because of winter coming up. We won't be able to go up to this street, Rosling, I think it's called, going up
Rossier, I think.
Rossier, going up the hill. We won't make that up in the winter time. And if it was a safety hazard that they made it a one-way, I suggest if you're going to make it, remove the signs and put speed bumps. I think would be better, and they could still use Spalding in both directions. You just have to slow down. And I think it's a safety issue because they want us to move our post office boxes on my property, which is fine with me. But the problem is we'll be standing out on the road getting our mail. And that's going to put us in danger as well. Not only us and our people that deliver our mail as well. And the one-way was put in without even asking us. It was just done. So I took a petition like 2 months ago, and I'd like to get it resolved before the first snowfall. I think it'd be safe for the people that actually live there. That's all I got.
Thank you, sir. And could you look into that along with Roland, kind of see what we can do with that? Got it. All right, next name is Teresa Hancock.
Teresa Hancock, Sunnyside. I don't have much to say tonight, except I know we're going to go over council rules and procedure, and I attended the meetings. And I just want to remind, we're short a couple council members. But I just want to remind the council members that you were individually voted in by your constituents. They want you to do what's best for the city of Sunnyside. They want these rules to reflect what's best for the city of Sunnyside. And if that means that 3 council members can hold 4 council members hostage with a majority +1 vote, then you guys aren't doing your jobs. You need to do your jobs. You need to be able to do what you need to do to represent the people who voted you in. And that's all I have to say to you.
Thank you. Next name is Sandra Lindy.
Well, I just want to say, I absolutely loved what you did with on the Sunnyside courts. I think it was wonderful to recognize the hard work that people do that are the girls, the parents, the community. And I just appreciate that we do that. And I know we have an opportunity also with LTAC dollars to help them. I know their float is just having a hard time. I know that we had a hard time years ago when my daughters were on there, but it's about at the end of its life. And if it's something that the city can help with, I think it's a good idea. That's my thoughts. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. All right. Next item then is a consent agenda. It's a fairly lengthy consent agenda, but hopefully everybody had a chance to read through it. Consent agenda consists of the following: minutes of the August 12, 2024 study session, minutes of the August 12, 2024 regular meeting, minutes of the August 24, 2024 special meeting budget retreat, minutes of the August 26, 2024 study session, minutes of the August 26, 2024 regular meeting, and minutes of the September 9, 2024 study session. Also payroll vouchers, approved payroll voucher numbers 9052 through 9239 and wire transfers as listed for $752,179.46 for the period ending on September 15, 2024. Approved claim voucher numbers 110396 through 110452 and wire transfers as listed for $345,294.84 for the period ending on September 27, 2024. Approved claim voucher numbers 110453 through 110529 and wire transfers as listed for $258,191.28 for the period ending October 9, 2024. Council members, is there any item that you'd like to remove from the consent agenda for further comment or discussion? Ms. Ripley.
On the August 26th minutes, under items from council members at the end before upcoming council meetings, it shows Councilor Frosto made the motion and Councilor Frosto seconded the motion. That's on the.
That was a good catch. And do you happen to remember who made the second?
No, I didn't go back and look at the.
Okay.
I have been like 20.
Yeah.
Mayor,
The first
I'll
one-
review my notes and I can revise it and bring it back for council approval.
Okay, that would be good. We'll bring that one back and so we'll pull that item off.
Thank you, Jackie.
So without those minutes, is there any other questions from council on any item? Hearing none, what is the desire of council on the consent agenda?
Move to approve.
Second.
All right, we got a motion by Councilor Ripley, second by Councilor Bueller to approve the consent agenda minus the minutes of the August 26, 2024 regular meeting. Is there debate on this item? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. By 2 vote aye. Motion passes. Oh, and I did forget to note in for the record that Councilor Hart did arrive during the presentation of the awards, so. All right, active agenda. First item, I'm not sure how to say this name, Strizak annexation. You're not saying no, and so, all right, approve a resolution to begin the annexation process of the Strizak property parcel number 221026-24003. Mr. City Manager.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So in the middle of September, Robert McLeod on behalf of Peter and I should know as a former broadcaster, I usually had a pronouncer, so I won't try it either. But he submitted a notice of intent to commence annexation on the property at 920 West Edison Road. It's parcel 221-026-24003. The 9.61 acre property is located adjacent to city limits within the urban growth boundary, commonly called the UGA, in accordance with RCW 35A.14.120. This initial process is to determine three things. The first, if the city council will accept, reject, or geographically modify the proposed annexation. And two, if simultaneously adopt the proposal, the zoning regulation is needed, and 3, the assumption of all or any portion of existing city indebtedness by the area to be annexed. So after reviewing the items listed, council may approve the resolution, which would begin the annexation process. A petition will be drafted for the property owner signature, and public hearing will be scheduled for a planning commission recommendation. The recommendation and annexation packet will be submitted to the Yakima County Boundary Review Board for their consideration. Then final action will come before the city council in the form of an ordinance before the property is officially annexed into the city limits. So that gives you a pretty good synopsis of what needs to transpire. This is something Corey Taylor brought before and submitted before Derek Broughton was here. So, and Derek, I don't know how much up to speed you are on this one. Okay, so he could certainly answer some questions. We have HLA that's here as well. So certainly could be a team effort if the council does have questions for this particular action.
Council members, any questions? Ms. Hart.
Yeah, I was trying to think here. Resolution. Is this property, have we already decided what the property is going to be used for?
Joseph,
City
thanks.
Manager?
Good evening, Joseph Calhoun, HLA. So the annexation petitioner / developer intends on submitting for a residential long plat upon annexation, but that would have to happen after this process concludes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? It seems as if the agenda packet and your explanation was very good, so.
We like it.
All right, so this is before us for a vote. What is the desire of council on this item?
Move that we approve the resolution and move it on to the planning commission. Well, not us, but the next step.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay. So we got a motion by Councilor Beaver, second by Councilor Hart to approve this resolution and begin the process. Is there debate on this item? Hearing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. I too vote aye. Motion passes. Thank you. All right, next item is the 2025 ad valorem property tax public hearing. Receive public comment on the 2025 ad valorem property tax with council action on October 28, 2024. So we're not voting on it tonight. This public hearing is being held to receive public comments and recommendations concerning the 2025 ad valorem property tax, appearance of fairness disclosures. The concern is that this hearing be fair in form and substance as well as appearance. Council members, do any of you have a conflict of interest concerning this issue? Do any of you stand to gain or lose any financial benefit as the result of the outcome of this hearing? If your answer is yes, please speak now. Council members, can you hear and consider this in a fair and objective manner? If your answer is no, please speak now. Audience members, is there anyone in the audience who objects to my participation or any other council member's participation in these proceedings? If there are objections, please approach the microphone, state your name, city of residence, and state your objection. I'm sorry, please. Okay, this is if you have any objections to any of the council members' proceedings on this question.
You said public, you said the general, you said public.
Correct, but your comment is if you have any objection to my participation or any other public or any other council member. No? Okay. You will have a moment to speak in just a moment, Ms. Soto. I promise. Okay, the time is now 6:57. And this public hearing is now open. All right. City manager will provide staff report on this item. Mr. City Manager.
All right, thank you, Mayor. And Debbie Zabel has done all the heavy lifting on this. So feel fortunate that she's with us. And, you know, obviously this is part of the budget process that council members are very familiar with. So with that being said, I'll turn it over to Debbie Zabel.
Ms. Zabel.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Do we have the ability to show the item up on the screen for the?
This screen is not working this evening.
Okay.
Audience members do have two screens facing them, and we've got these screens facing us, so.
Okay.
So for tonight's public hearing on our proposed revenue sources and the proposed property tax levy, state statute does require that local governments hold a public hearing on estimated revenue sources for the upcoming year's budget, including consideration of possible increases in the property tax revenues. This public hearing will be held prior to council voting on the annual property tax levy, and we will bring it back to council at the next regular council meeting. Staff has prepared and presented for council for consideration the following revenue sources. So revenue sources that are projected for 2025 are the beginning fund balance for all funds is $6,805,705. Taxes is $16,817,695. Licenses and permits, $422,440. Intergovernmental revenues is $1,438,945. Charges for goods and services is $12,891,040. Fines and forfeitures, $154,230. Miscellaneous revenues, $950,805. Non-revenues, $64,700 for a total of $39,545,560. So based on the financial condition of the city's 2024 budget, specifically the revenue shortfall that we're experiencing, and the inability to obtain accurate information from the city's financial software and the limitations within the finance department because we're short-staffed. The revenues were estimated by using the 2020 and 2023 actual revenues and estimating the remainder of 2024. We've used a conservative 3% increase to determine what we estimate the 2025 proposed revenues to be. All staff works through the 2024 budget predicament. The proposed revenues can be adjusted up or down depending on the outcome. So we still are working with our vendor to get our revenues out of the new software that we were going to be using and back into our previous software. And the one thing I do want to make sure that we understand and are very clear on is, so the best case scenario for this 2024 year is if we end the year with zero fund balance. We don't want to end with a negative shortfall, or else we're going to have to take a loan and start the year out next year with the interfund loan. So it's going to be essential for the city to devote at least all of 24 or 2025 and 2026 into building back our fund reserves. We do want to have at least 15%. That is the GFOA recommended fund balance, and that will help us to get us through the first part of our year. Our biggest chunk of money that we get is from property tax, and we don't get that until April. So we need to have something to carry us from the beginning of the year until we get our first deposit of property tax funds. The other item that we'll be working on is adopting some financial policies. I have not been able to look at financial policies that the council has adopted. If you remember adopting them, I would love to hear that. And the purpose of having financial policies will provide written guidelines for how the city's officials and staff would approach fiscal issues and core financial areas. Effective financial policies are essential to the fiscal health, and can help elected officials, management, and staff make the right decisions for our community now and in the future. They provide stability and continuity over the years as staff and elected officials turn over by establishing what actions are acceptable and unacceptable, identifying who is responsible for taking certain actions, and providing standards to measure the jurisdiction's performance. Included in the financial policies would be a fund balance policy. As I just discussed previously, the importance of having a fund balance to get us through that next year. And there would be a financial policy that would set a fund balance minimum for each one of the funds going forward. With that, I will move on to the proposed property tax levy. And as we talked about, the property tax is one of the city's major sources for funding city services, and that's police, fire, operations within City Hall. And upon council's approval, the 2025 property tax revenues will be budgeted at $2,659,039, which includes the 1% property tax levy as allowed by state statute, and it does account for delinquencies. The 1% increase provides an additional $67,939.81 of property tax revenue. And this is, okay, staff can see this, or audience can see this. So the Washington State Constitution limits the annual rate of property taxes that can be imposed on an individual property to 1% of its true and fair value. Since tax rates are stated in terms of dollars for $1,000 of value, the 1% limit is the same as $10 for every $1,000 of valuation for a home. Taxes imposed under this limit are termed regular levies, while those outside this limit are excess levies or special levies. And Sunnyside does have an excess levy. So in 2017, there was a $5 million voted approved levy to build the fire station. So we have our regular property tax that we get. And then we also tell the auditor or the assessor that during the year, we're going to need X amount of dollars to pay the debt service for that loan. And so all we collect is the principal and interest for that loan. And then there's a table that I provided that shows how the $10 is split between all the different taxing entities. So of the $10, the state gets up to $3.60. And then there's a remainder of $5.90, and that is split between EMS levies that we have, any affordable housing levies, criminal justice, regional transit levies. Oh, I did do the wrong ones. I'm sorry. The 590 is the city's regular levy, the county tax, cultural access program levies, metropolitan park levies, and any special purpose districts. And we do have, like, the airport is one that falls within there. And then we have on top of that, then we have any that's available for capacity after that, up to 50 cents, gets split between the EMS levy, which we do have, and then the affordable housing and criminal justice tax, which we do have. And if folks can remember, when we did the criminal justice, that was voted on for, I think, for a period of like 4 years. And it had to go back to a vote of the people at the end of that time. And the last time we went to ballot, we voted it to be permanent. So we don't have to go back to do that tax any longer. So I wanted to share table 2 because it's kind of interesting for folks. So on table 2, we have 5 properties. And these are actual properties in Sunnyside. They're all on the same street. And they all have different assessed valuations determined by the assessor's office. And the table shows how the property tax that is paid by each property is distributed to each one of the taxing entities. And highlighted in green is what the city of Sunnyside receives. So we receive the levy bond. So for the first house that has a valuation of $94,900, the city receives $33.20 to cover that debt service for that loan. And then for the regular levy, the city received $183.98 for regular city services. And as we remember, back in 2023, 2022 is when the assessor came down the lower valley and reassessed everyone's homes. And everyone's valuations went up. So when you go down to table 3, these are the exact same homes. So the first column, the home that was $94,900 in 2023 is now worth $153,300, or that's what they were assessed. So we can see, and the property tax, there's 3 components to it. There's the valuation of the home, there's the assessed valuation of the city in general, and there's a factor where we take the property tax and we divide that into the whole assessed valuation of the city, and we come up with the levy rate. And that levy rate is what the assessor is going to use to collect taxes for just the city's portion of the property tax. So after the reassessment of the homes and the assessed valuation went up, you can see that the property tax levy went from $1.94 in 2023. It went down to $1.74 because there's now more assessed valuation to divide the individual homes into. So now in 2025, we have table 4. So the assessor has determined that the total valuation for all of Sunnyside has increased from the 1,485,000 to 1,519,000. Now, we don't have the reassessment of the individual homes, so I just used the same valuations from 2024. I don't know what the other taxing entities are going to ask for, so I just used the same numbers from 2024, which these are the actual assessments for each one of those properties. But because our multiplier, our denominator is growing, the tax rate is going to go down by 1 cent. So the home now, in the first column, they are going to, you'll see there, the tax levy rate goes down by a penny, but they're actually going to pay more property tax than they did last year. And that's just for Sunnyside. No, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong table. It's actually going to go up by 37 cents. So with that, the addition of the 1% is going to result in an additional $67,939 coming into the city for services. And the RCW 8469-180 does allow for us to recover for lost revenue, lost refunds and or reimbursements. So we would include that dollar amount when we did our property tax ordinance to send to the county. So to summarize, the city is made a modest increase for revenues for 2024 or 2025. And knowing that, what we talked about last time, knowing that whatever revenues we are budgeting for, that is how much we have to spend. There's no fund balance, there's no savings. So what we take in is only the amount we're going to spend. We do need to come up with financial policies that the council would adopt so staff can be able to work within those parameters. And for the proposed property tax levy, it does increase an individual property that has a valuation of $153,000 by 37 cents.
Right, thank you.
If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer that.
All right, audience members, anyone wish to speak on this item? And Ms. Soto, you are first on the list.
I object to your little tax thing. I'm tired of paying so much property taxes every year. It goes up. Hey, I'm old, come on. I don't want to be paying this stuff. If you guys have a deficit, not my fault, okay? I didn't handle that budget. You guys should have taken care of it. Thank you.
Other audience comments, Ms. Hancock.
I know from being Teresa Hancock, Sunnyside, I know from being on council, this is a very, very complicated issue. And that 1%, while it looks like a lot of dollars, that's all we can collect. And that's the only thing that provides these services and things people expect from the city. And I'm a senior on a fixed income, but I also get a break from Yakima County on what I pay. So the most vulnerable of us get a discount on that. And I would say that while I don't like to raise taxes ever, and they never come back down, this 1% that you guys are asked to increase every year is held down by the legislature. It isn't enough to keep up with inflation. And inflation is very expensive. Wages, we all know what the inflation is doing, and the city's not immune from it. So while I know it's a difficult subject, I think it's a very important subject that you guys, if we don't take it, it's not like it goes away or it doesn't help anybody in Sunnyside. So, this is one of the times, I don't want to see you raising water and sewer, but you might have to, but on the property tax, the way the legislature has put this in is, I think it's one of those things you just have to do. And I, like I say, don't like taxes, but there you go. So.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? I didn't get any names on the sign up sheet, so if you want to speak, put your hand up and I'll call you forward. All right, seeing no one. Council members, any questions or comments on this item? Ms. Fausto.
Just a question, and I think we had a conversation about this previously, correct me if I'm wrong. Taxes are scary. The word taxes is very scary to the community, to the public, to anybody really, especially when you're on a fixed income. And we are living in a community where we are primarily low income. It's a primarily low income community. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, anybody in the audience, but I think we're living in an average of $50,000 in Sunnyside, median salary. So we had previously had a discussion of even just the communication piece around this. I'm not a finance expert, right? Numbers has never really been my thing. But if I sit down with it long enough, I get it and I understand it. What is a communication plan that maybe we can put together for the community to maybe demystify a little bit of this tax conversation or discourse? And this is, I think, where the conversation came in about, my mom's house is worth, like a little over 300,000. I'm just saying, throwing out a number. What does that mean for her, right? Is there somewhere that we can maybe put together this information to be able to disseminate it or be able to answer any questions? I know we have a hearing now, but not everybody comes to the council meetings. But is there a plan that maybe we can consider to try to do some of this and mitigate some of this fear and anxiety that is prone to happen and come up?
Mayor, if I may, I have seen content created in various forms. Video seems to work best with the explainers, but I could certainly work with Jackie to get some written content because I think the 1% is probably the most misunderstood tax. Gosh, I think it was 20 years ago that Tim Eyman instituted that law where you at one point jurisdictions could actually increase the base rate up to 6%. Teresa, you probably remember that. And so he came in and overwhelmingly it was passed. And I've spoken to many fiscal conservatives that in the East Side that regret even voting for that when they were in the legislature, because inadvertently we can't keep up with inflation. It's really killing us, and I would say we run pretty lean and here at Sunnyside. And I can say where I just left at Franklin County, we actually ran the leanest county in all of Washington State, and we still couldn't keep up with inflation. It was unbelievable just because the way it was structured. But that was sort of my preview to, yeah, absolutely. Because I would like to, because, and I think the misunderstanding too is when we get more construction in new houses, everybody pays into the pot. You still kind of pay more. I mean, there's no way to avoid it, but people's valuation goes up from, let's say 400 to 500,000. It's not as if you're bearing the whole burden, but you're still going to pay a little bit extra. But I think it's probably one of the most misunderstood as as the pot widens and there's more people paying in, that's where that levy rate sort of gets adjusted. So, but yeah, I would like to do that because I think it would be really helpful.
And I did try to show on the tables. That's why there's 5 parcels there that show 100,000, 200,000, 300,000, 400,000, 500,000. So for a $300,000 home, their property tax, just as they pay to the city, would go up $1.76.
Oh, I see that. Okay.
So we don't have any control over how much they pay their entire property tax, which would be $2,400. But of that $2,400, the city would get $500.
You see that?
Further questions? Mr. Beeler.
You've got way more history, and I wasn't here back then, but I know the last time we had a financial crisis back in the 2007, 2008 era. Since then, I think there was, correct me if I'm wrong, 1 or 2 times we didn't pass this. And then we really paid for it when we had to double up 2 years later. That's what I've heard.
And I heard something very similar to that, but I wasn't on council when that wasn't passed. So Ms. Hancock is nodding her head, and she did spend time on council during those years, and she had to make some difficult decisions with the council as well. So yeah, that's something too that we don't pass that and we kind of set ourselves back. And that ends up costing us as well. So
Right.
that is a concern. Go ahead.
So if council chooses to not take the 1%, there's two options. One option is to do nothing, and then we never get that back again. So, or to bank it for another time. So we are allowed to bank this 1% and use it later. But if we don't bank it, that would create, I mean, that's a whole other ordinance process. We'd have to come back. And then we'd contact the assessors and say, we're taking our 1%, but we're banking it to use later on. We're just not going to use it this year.
But
So
if
to
this
cities,
year- But this year, I think we should go ahead and use it.
yeah, right. Yeah, we don't like,
Under the circumstances, yeah.
that would be
It's
my
listed
my
for the
recommendation
options.
would be, but if there's any inclination that council does not want to do it, I highly recommend we go through the process of banking that 1% to use later. Don't let it go because we'll never get it back again. Everything's cumulative.
Yeah.
Ms. Ripley.
I'm low income and I hate to see taxes go up, but being on council, I see where, you know, the financial benefit, things have got to be paid and like you said, we can't get it back. And I'd rather raise it 1% rather than all of a sudden more. That's easier than more.
And there's another consideration as well, and hopefully I understand this correctly, but sometimes the city needs to ask the state for some money for projects or something like that. And the state comes back and asks if we are using all of our tax options and we're collecting all the money that we can. And if we're not, the state will go back and say, collect that money instead of asking for a loan from the state. And so that hurts our prospects of getting money for projects on matching grants and different things. And we need to be cognizant of that as well. I too don't like raising taxes. It just galls me to think about doing that. And that's one of the reasons why it is required that council members live in the city. And, you know, we are affected by the decisions that we make as well. So when we raise the tax, even the 1%, that is going to impact each and every one of us as well. And so, or our landlords, which could impact your rent if you're renting a house. And so we're all going to be impacted by the decisions that we make, and we need to be, you know, thoughtful about that, but at the same time recognizing what the city needs. And keeping in mind too that what we're talking about today is not going to impact the 2024 budget. This is not a corrective measure to restore our budget in this current fiscal year. This is about next year's budget. So we're not looking at our budget deficit right now with this. This is next year and planning for that. Okay. Further questions from council members? Further comments from staff members? Hearing none. There being no additional comments, this public hearing is closed at 7:21. Thank you, everyone. And to the public, thank you for your comments and input. All right. This will come back to council for a vote at our next regular meeting. So we will have a chance to look over this and reflect upon it, and it'll come up for a vote the next time. All right, next item on the agenda is investment interest. Approval resolution authorizing the general fund to receive all unrestricted investment interest beginning on January 1, 2024. So this is retroactive. Mr. City Manager.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. So this was presented to council on October 7th, 2024 at our study session. Pertains to RCW 35A.40.050, which allows for the city council to authorize the deposit of unrestricted investment interest to the general fund. And based on the city's current financial situation, utilizing this option will be very beneficial to the city. This is another initiative that our deputy city manager has been working on, so I will tee it up that way, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Ms. Sable, did you want to comment on this?
I think Mr. City Manager did a great job.
All right. All right, council, questions or comments on this item? Ms. Fausto, I'm sorry.
Debbie, would you mind doing a recap of what we discussed last time we convened on the 7th?
I would be happy to. So as shared at our study session last week, the city invests all excess funds from excess dollars from every fund, water sewer fund, ambulance fund, general fund, and we invest it into either the state local government investment pool, which is a very large investment pool where most local governments will put all their excess cash in. It earns a very good interest rate, and we're able to get that cash out immediately, as in if you call by 9, it'll be deposited into your bank by 2. We do have a few bonds. We have 4 of them, and they're $1 million bonds. And so the bonds, we receive cash interest payments. And then on the local government investment pool, we get reinvested interest. So the interest goes back into the fund that has the primary, that's holding the initial deposit. So RCW 35A 4050 does allow for all unrestricted funds, and restricted funds would be funds like the LTAC money. That LTAC money is a tax that people pay to stay in a hotel, and that tax can only be used on projects that would bring in tourism. There's a criteria for that. The criminal justice tax that we receive, that's a restricted fund. Our restricted money can only be used on police services. So those types of monies would not be part of this. So this would be like water or sewer or the ambulance fund. These would be things where there's excess funds, and the interest earned off those excess funds would go directly into the general fund to help support the services of the city.
Okay.
Thank you for that.
Okay, further questions or comments on this item? Okay. There's no questions or comments on that. What is the desire of council on this item?
Move to approve.
Second.
All right, we've got a motion by Councilor Ripley, second by Councilor Beeler to approve a resolution authorizing the general fund to receive all unrestricted investment interest beginning back in January 1, 2024. Is there debate on this item? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. I too vote aye. Motion passes. All right, item D, authorize the LGIP investment approval resolution designating the city manager to make withdrawals or contributions on behalf of the city of Sunnyside. Mr. City Manager.
And excuse me, let me just pop up our cover sheet here real quick. Give some context. So again, this was presented October 7th during our study session. Council may remember. So the Washington State Local Government Investment Pool requires government entities utilizing the investment pool to provide a resolution designating the individual authorized to make withdrawals or contributions on behalf of the government entity. So the proposed resolution designates the deputy city manager as the individual for the city of Sunnyside to do that. So essentially a layer of protection allowing the deputy city manager to do that and sweep that into the fund.
Yeah. Questions or comments on this item? As I understand it, it hadn't been updated in some time, but it did have our previous city manager as the authorized person. It's from when she was finance director, but it hadn't been updated since then. So it is due to be updated. I'm in favor of the person in charge of the finances being the one entitled to do that. I think generally speaking, the city manager doesn't get to touch the funds.
I like that. Yeah,
I like that too.
I trust Debbie, and it certainly could be adjusted if something happened via resolution. But I think council, I feel really comfortable having it be one person, and certainly I'm keeping a close eye on things. And Debbie is, obviously I trust her 1000%, and I think that's the best way to operate it.
Okay, further discussion on this item?
I was just, go ahead.
Well,
Oh, no, go ahead.
go ahead, Ms. Hart.
I was just gonna say, just in lieu of that, should we not have a backup, just a second appointee?
Right now, we have Jacqueline as our city clerk. She is also authorized to be able to go in if something were to happen to me, if I were hit by a bus or whatever, she would have access to go in and make
City
any
clerk.
arrangements that she needs to have done. And
Okay.
that would be through the city manager's direction. So.
Okay, thank you. I was thinking there was, but thank you for explaining
And
it.
we do have we actually included the authorization form that shows who we're adding and then who we're deleting off of the account.
See that?
Yeah.
Oh, that, so.
Good.
Right.
Thank you.
Once again, any more questions? Hearing none, what is the desire of council on this item?
Move to approve.
Second,
All right, we have a motion by Councilor Fausto, second by Councilor Hart to approve a resolution designating the deputy city manager to make withdrawals or contributions on behalf of the city of Sunnyside. Is there debate on this item? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
aye.
Opposed, no. I too vote aye. The motion passes. Item E, water leak adjustment. Adopt an ordinance establishing the procedures for adjusting utility bills due to a water leak. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor, and this is something that's been a team effort with our deputy city manager and her team and the utility billing department. And so this was something on October 7th we talked about a little bit at the study session. This proposed ordinance amends the Sunnyside Municipal Code, Chapter 13.16, to provide the ability for the city to assist utility customers that have experienced a water leak in their service line from the water meter to the building by adjusting the water portion of their utility bill due to the leak. This program requires utility account owner / customer to repair the leak within a specified time and for the city to verify the repairs, and may provide up to a $250 credit to the water portion of their utility bill to the leak that occurred beyond the control of the utility customer. And this was something that I believe originally Deputy Mayor Galvan brought to our attention. And I think during our deputy city manager's first few days, we had a real world customer come in, and it's sort of an issue. And this is something where we're trying to get some policies and procedures in place and be consistent with how we deal with this. So we just happen to have multiple kind of real experiences with this. So certainly want to give our customers and our residents the benefit of the doubt on all these sort of things. And, but certainly have a policy in place that, is very fair for everybody involved. So if our deputy city manager, mayor, would like to give some context, would love to do that. If you want to, I don't know if it's necessary, but
Say the deputy city or the deputy mayor?
no, deputy city manager.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Would you like to comment on this?
Did
item?
hear me?
Did I say mayor? I might have said mayor. I was thinking.
It's Debbie.
No, I just think this is a really great opportunity to help the residents who have had a water leak, because it can be very costly for them. And so if we can help them somehow, I think that's a good care and concern for our community.
Okay, comments or questions on this? Mr. Beeler.
I think it's a great idea. Not only we can help them out on the money side, but it's going to cost way more than that they're going to have to pay to have the line fixed. That's a very expensive project.
Further comments or questions? Ms. Fausto.
Out of curiosity, is there a limit? Like if this person, like if there's a resident where they're having this issue over and over again, is there a limit to how many times we'll be able to help and support this?
There is. So they do have to be current on their bill.
Okay.
And then they can not have had the same thing happen within 5 years.
Oh, okay.
And if they're having a repeated an event like this happening, then there's a problem that is probably being caused on their side.
Okay. Thank you.
Further questions or comments? I do remember earlier this year, starting in January, February, I was hearing an awful lot about people who had just ridiculously high water bills, and they were concerned about that. And because of everything else going on, it kind of got lost in the shuffle. I'm glad we're finally stepping up and taking some steps to resolve this. And yeah, I mean, this happens altogether too often, right? You hear about water leaks and problems inside the house, but we don't necessarily take steps to resolve the issues outside before it gets to the house. We do have, I don't know if the city is still putting that information out, but there is an insurance company that will insure your water line up to your house from your meter, because the city is not responsible for that. The city is responsible up to the meter. And so there is an insurance policy that you can get. And I don't know when the last time we sent that out. It's been a while, but maybe we could send that out as a reminder that people may want to buy that policy, because that will cover the repairs. And so if you have to tear up your driveway, if you have to tear up your yard, get in there with a backhoe, clean that all up, and redo your pipe or whatever has to be done, then that insurance policy is there to help you out. I know I had to have some of my outside line repaired earlier this year, turned my backyard into a swamp, and it was a bit of a headache. And my water bill got to be a little bit high. So I do encourage people to get that policy. It is incredibly helpful. Or you can look at perhaps your homeowner's policy might have something also available for you, and that may be even a lower cost if your homeowner's policy will carry that. So I would encourage the public to look into that as well. All right, if there's no further comments, what is the desire of council on this item?
To approve
Second.
or adopt.
All right, we have a motion by Councilor Blumer, second by Councilor Hart, to adopt an ordinance establishing procedures for adjusting utility bills due to a water leak. Is there debate on this item? Hearing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. I two vote aye, motion passes. Thank you. All right, item F, SMC 2.08, City Council Meetings Update. Adopt an ordinance amending section 2.08 of the Sunnyside Municipal Code pertaining to the city council study sessions and regular meetings. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this agenda item proposes an amendment to Sunnyside Municipal Code 2.08 to adjust the scheduling of study sessions and regular city council meetings. The proposed changes are as follows. Number one, hold study sessions on the first and third Mondays of every month at 6 p.m. And number two, change the meeting time of regular council meetings held on the second and fourth Mondays of every month to start at 6 p.m. as well. By standardizing the start time to 6 p.m. for both study sessions and regular meetings, we aim to improve consistency for the public, council, and staff. And this is something I recently brought up at a leadership meeting to run by the staff, and it was received pretty well. I have ran it by a few members of the public, and anecdotally, the consistency seems pretty good, because I could honestly, sometimes when we have them at 5:30 and 6:30, sometimes you go, what time is it? So I think by having consistency for the public and staff, we know what time it's going to be at, and we also weighed the factor of people getting out of work, and we had some pretty well attended study sessions, and those were at 5:30, so we figured a happy medium. It gives everybody the opportunity to get here at 6, you get out of work by 5. So I think by having that consistency, maybe we'll get more participation in person and online, because you never have to think about what time the actual meeting starts. It'll always be at 6 o'clock. So certainly welcome some input from the council if they think different.
Council members, comments on this item? Ms. Proudstone.
You're making us work, Mike. Out of curiosity, our usual workshops don't have public comment. The last one did. Is that something that we're going to adopt in practice?
That's something that we do intend to incorporate into the work sessions. What we'd like to do is keep them focused on that particular item. Now, we can't help if somebody goes rogue and says whatever they want. Certainly, we can't stop them. But the intent would be to, if we're studying that particular topic, please stay to that topic. And don't go rogue if you don't want to go rogue. So that seems, we've seen some other jurisdictions, and that seems to be really effective. And plus, it feels like the stakeholders are more involved, because I worked for jurisdictions where we did not allow public comments during work study sessions, and the feeling was, hey, I'm sitting right here, you're talking about my item, and wait a minute, you're not letting me comment on it. So I feel like it was much more productive when we got the stakeholders involved, because oftentimes it's about development or something that is important to the community. So so that is something that we're committed to, more transparency.
Thank you.
Further comments or questions?
Just a quick question,
Go ahead,
just a
sorry.
little bit of clarification. So then when we have like special sessions, which we periodically have, those would also fall under the 6 o'clock.
I think so. I mean, certainly special sessions can be anytime, you know, depending. They're
So they
pretty
wouldn't
flexible.
have to be.
There would, a special session wouldn't have to be, the only caveat with a special session, you have to stick to that one particular topic. So you couldn't go off track with that, but yeah, that's much more flexible.
That's right. Just for clarification.
Right, yeah, no, good question.
Mr. Beeler.
That also puts extra meeting on us. But I looked it up and I went through all of next year, and that means, because I like to have one whole week off to plan to do something, vacation, I don't miss these meetings. And every third month, basically, there is that last fifth Monday that we won't have a meeting.
Right.
So at least we have some of those.
No, that is good. I know in Franklin County, it didn't matter. That is good. A break is
Every
good.
3 months.
Yeah.
Every 3 months, all right.
I'm with you on that, Councilman.
Okay. All right, further questions? Hearing none, what's the desire of council on this item?
Move to adopt the resolution.
I'll second it.
All right, we've got a motion by Counselor Hart, second by Counselor Ripley
Excuse me.
to,
Adopt the ordinance.
I'll read it into the record here in a second. We have a motion by Counselor Hart, second by Counselor Ripley to adopt an ordinance amending section 2.08 of the Sunnyside Municipal Code pertaining to the city council study sessions and regular meetings. Is there any debate on this item? Hearing none. All in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. I too vote aye. Motion passes. Item G, interlocal agency agreement for on-call services on federal funded projects. Approve a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into an interlocal agency agreement, ILA, with Yakima County for all on-call services on federally funded projects. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is something Raul Sanchez, our Public Works Director, has been working on. So a quick synopsis. City of Sunnyside has had interlocal agency agreements with Yakima County for on-call services on federally funded projects in the past. So I will tee it up that way for Mr. Sanchez.
Mr. Sanchez.
Thank you. So yes, this is for the interlocal agency agreement for on-call services on federal funded projects. So the city of Sunnyside desires to use federal funds to undertake current and future city projects. The expenditures of federal funds require that the project be designed and administered in accordance with the Washington State Department of Transportation local agency guidelines. So including a certification by a certified acceptance agency, which Yakima County is. So the local agency guidelines provides that a non-certified local agency like the city of Sunnyside may enter into an agreement with a CA agency to have the CA agency perform the project development or contract administration. Yakima County is presently certified to administer federal aid projects as established organization that is capable of providing services to other governmental agencies pursuant to RCW 39.34.080. This agreement will allow the city of Sunnyside to use Yakima County to provide certified acceptance on federal projects.
Questions or comments from Mr. Sanchez?
Can you give us just for an example of a federal project? Would that be like the airport?
Any funds that would be for like the 6th Street project or anything that has federal dollars coming in to the project through a grant or something, the project itself would require a certified acceptance agency, which Yakima County would be in this situation.
Thank you.
Other questions? Hearing none, what's the desire of council on this item?
Move to,
Actually, I had a.
Do you have a
do you
question?
have a question?
Okay, let's go back to your question, Mr. Russell.
I'm trying to understand this, so thank you for asking your question. And, have we done something like this in the past?
Correct. So the one that we had just expired in 22. So they're
Okay.
4-year, they're actually on a yearly basis, but they go up to 4 years. And so the last one that we just had for this, for on-call services expired in 22. So this is just to start the new one, which would go again on an annual basis up to 4 years.
Oh, okay, great. So just like Counselor Hart said, she asked for an example. What have been some of the projects that we have been, I guess,
The
using
Sixth
this,
Street project.
the Sixth Street?
That was
Okay,
one example.
okay, I gotcha,
Yeah.
gotcha. Okay.
All right, thank you.
HLA is, sorry, I don't know if
Uh-huh.
she's trying to comment.
Stephanie, do you want to comment to this or you got?
Mr. Sanchez, you did a wonderful job in explaining all this and answer Ms. Rostro's question. Sixth Street was your last project that you had with federal funding. As a CA, the county only provides an independent review for WashDOT on only particular documents. So they actually sign off as well as a city and as well as WashDOT. So they're more or less an independent reviewer for you. To answer Ms. Hart's question, projects at the airport are FAA funded and completely different process. So the projects that we're talking about would be related to transportation. Could also be right-of-way services, things more related to streets and roads, not airport.
Thank you.
Understood. Thank you.
Thank you for
Good.
adding to that. That was very helpful. Further questions or comments? All right, now what is the desire of council on this item?
I got confused. No, I didn't.
Approve the resolution.
Approve the resolution second.
Okay. All right, we got a motion by Counselor Beeler, second by Counselor Hart to approve a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into an interlocal agency agreement, an ILA, with Yakima County for on-call services on federally funded projects. Is there debate on this item? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. I too vote aye. Motion passes. Thank you. All right, item H, the item that you've all been waiting for. Draft council rules of procedure. I do want to emphasize this is a draft. The committee, I'm sorry, I'll read the title. Review the draft council rules of procedure and provide feedback and or direction. The rules committee has worked over the past month. We've met once a week and some of those meetings were pretty long. I will never forget a friend of mine when I lived in the Dominican Republic, he would call those meetings kilometrico. They would go on for miles and we feel like we spent some time on it and we did a lot of work and I think they were good meetings. We got to a lot of things. I know the major question that drew us into this meeting was the ordinance on removing a mayor or deputy mayor. However, it was high time for all of our rules and procedures to be reviewed. So we undertook that and what we worked off of was a proposed change or amendment to council rules and procedures that, well, for whatever reason, I mean, the Committee on Rules and Procedures or the Rules Committee approved it to move forward and then it was never moved forward. And so in 2018 was the last time we actually approved any changes. So the document that is being used with the red line through it that you all received in your email is that document, and that one was never approved by council. So you can find the 2018 document. I think Jackie included it somewhere in there. It's either there or it's on the website, correct?
Yes, it's on the website.
Okay, so the one that was approved last in 2018 is on the website. The red line document is one that a previous rules committee group worked on and got it to that point. And that's what I brought in as a starting point. So that was never imagined that was going to come in unamended and unchanged, and it was changed considerably over the process. And I think that we did some good work. Now, we don't all agree on some of the phraseology, some of the terminology there. And so it is up to council to impact this. It is not the rules committee that makes the decision on this. This is all of council that makes the decision on it. We tried to cover the ground as much as we could. We were introduced to some different ideas. We looked at other cities' rules of procedure. Sometimes they go under different names. And we don't consider this the finished document. When we adopt the changes here, however council approves them, we want to continue working as we can follow up. We felt that these items were the most important amendments to our rules. And so wanted to bring this forward to council, and also I had committed that this would be in front of council in October, and I was pretty firm in that commitment on that. So we're not going to vote on this tonight. That will come back to us. This question will be continued into our next meeting. And so it is for you to ask questions. It's for you to take home and study. You've had the weekend to study it. Yeah, give it some thought and that sort of thing. So at this point, are there questions on this item? Ms. Ripley?
My computer went down. I had today to look at it.
Oh, shoot, I'm sorry.
And I was just wondering if we could get a copy of the old rules and procedures and the proposed one so that we can compare them.
I think that would be fine. Is there a way that we could maybe print those and get them into the council's boxes?
Yes, it was emailed to you and then I can print them out and put them in the box.
Is your computer back up and working?
Yes.
Okay, so you
I got it going this morning about 10 o'clock and
okay.
I crunched.
So the 2018 amendments are on the city webpage, but if you'd like to have a printed copy, I think the clerk can put that in your box in City Hall.
I'll actually print it right now and then I'll give it to you at the end of the meeting.
Even better.
Okay, great, thanks.
Okay.
And one of the things you might, the things that are redlined are things we were taking out.
Correct.
And they were things that were in the 18 version, correct?
Or the other version, the one that I brought along for our meetings, right, that had all the.
The red line is out.
That stuff is out. Anything's got a line through it, the red stuff, that's.
Yeah, I didn't understand that when I was reading it and.
That might.
That's just for you to be able to go back and reference, okay, this is what was there before, this is how we propose to change it. So if it's got a red line through it, that's been struck.
Okay.
Okay.
And if it's red letters,
If it's red letters, then it's new.
We needed
Yeah.
directions.
Okay,
Now, if it's underlined and it's red, that's what we're putting in.
yeah, so up there like 5.3 consent agenda, that's a new title. We've changed that term to make it more current and with reality.
The things too, we were talking earlier about budget policies, that's under 2.12, and those have been added.
Right, we added those back in. They had been removed from the rules of procedure. And I was led to understand that they were placed in a different place in the SMC, but nobody's been able to find where that is. And so we voted to move those back in. And we will, upon approval of some sort of changes to the rules, we want to recommend that budget rules go before our finance subcommittee and they look at that and make any changes or recommend changes for council to approve.
No changes have been made in.
No, in the budget section, we haven't made any changes. We're going to recommend the finance subcommittee do that. Ms. Fausto.
Are they going to do that review before we actually get to vote by I believe this is coming back to council on October 28th for a final action.
We have to approve these rules before we can send that. I mean, the rules can always be amended. So we want to approve the amendments that we've made in its form, however council votes on it, and then the budget one, we're going to send to the finance after approval.
Two questions. I believe the conversation, I spoke to Mr. City Manager, and he mentioned that we were gonna workshop this a little bit more on the
Correct.
21st.
Correct. That is also going to be on our workshop agenda.
Okay, good. Because like Miss Counselor Ripley, I got through probably half of this, so I haven't read it thoroughly enough to have enough questions for tonight. And then you mentioned that there were some things that y'all left off that y'all want, y'all as in the rules committee are still looking at. What are those?
What were those all again? I'm sorry, I didn't come with that prepared. So there were a number of items. We as a committee decided we want to meet once a month. And I'm pretty sure we have agenda items to take us through the next year. So there's a number of them. For me to list all of them off, I would, yeah, and I don't have those notes with me.
There's 10 items
that are still part of this.
That are not in this.
Not in here.
No, they're things that we want to work on and get a better understanding of before we present that to council as an amendment to our rules.
Oh, okay.
And they're all pertinent kinds of things that you would expect to see in your rules and procedures.
Okay.
They just weren't in there before, and we were looking
Right.
at adding, possibility of adding them. And I'm sorry, I don't have that piece of paper either.
Will those come after this is voted on?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're
yes.
not going to meet until November in order to start talking about the first one of those items. So and we expect to have this voted on at our next regular meeting, so. So we're only talking about what's in this particular document. And again, you know, I didn't anticipate you'd have computer problems or that sort of thing, but there was no intention of bringing this for a vote today.
Okay.
And when we changed our format to have our workshops, and then the manager suggested we bring this forward in our workshop for discussion, I'm 100% in favor of that, because we do need to discuss this back and forth. There will be changes. The entire committee isn't in agreement on everything. And so it's going before council to make sure that council is in favor. Again, this is a council document and council rules on this document, not a subcommittee of 3.
Well, I want to thank the 3 of you for taking time to bring this back. I think it's really important to have up-to-date rules, and up-to-date rules that majority can be agreeable to, and that are being looked at on a regular cadence. So I want to extend my gratitude to the 3 of you.
Thank you for that. Further comments, Mr. Beeler?
I also watched the video and I stayed awake.
Hey.
And I appreciated like Teresa being in there and other people being in there, and the time that you guys put in there. That was a lot of seat time.
It was a job we took seriously, and I'm very pleased with my fellow committee members and their dedication to the task. And they brought a lot of good ideas and good work to the process. So it was truly a team effort, and I felt, yeah, I'm just very proud to have worked with them and everything that we were able to accomplish. So whatever form this takes, at the end of it, I think we've got a good document, so.
Yeah.
All right, if there's no further questions on this item, let's move to item I, SMC 2.08.080, removal of the mayor and deputy mayor. Discuss an ordinance creating SMC 2.08.080, removal of the mayor or deputy mayor from office due to dereliction of duty or code of conduct violations, and receive direction. All right, so the item was sent to the Rules Committee in response to this ordinance being presented and passed, and then being I'll shoot, the terms just slipped my mind a second. Reconsidered, thank you. To try to see if we can make improvements. And so this is in discussion of the original ordinance. Do we wish to, and again, we're not voting on this evening, but a discussion of, do we wish to continue with this ordinance, or do we wish to work with the ordinance or the language that's in our rules of procedure? I think what the committee did is we tried to be faithful to the idea and the intent of the ordinance. The language isn't exactly the same, but yet at the same time, I believe it covers the idea pretty well. I think it's as good as what the original ordinance suggested. And so we're kind of in a position where if we approve the rules of procedure, that kind of means that we're not approving the ordinance. So it's going to be kind of a vote of one or the other. I don't know, Mr. Manager, if that's the best way to say that.
That's pretty, excuse me. That's pretty much your options. It's one or the other.
Okay.
And I know there was some conversation during the session that I guess theoretically Councilor Frosto could bring it forward, but I know we've spoken, and your intent is to take it through the process and you know, continue the conversation and have it fleshed out. So then I think to your point, Mayor, it's been a really good process, and everybody's worked in good faith to make this a really solid document. And so I appreciate being part of it. And, you know, so ultimately we've got a really solid work that was really a group effort.
Ms. Fausto.
Question for Mr. Riley. Does it have to be one or the other? Or could this ordinance come back even after voting in the new updated rules?
This can come back if you choose to reintroduce it for a vote before the city council. The idea was that the last city council meeting that freezed this, I think we were at 45 days ago or so. The vote of the city council was to send your proposed ordinance to Rules Committee for review, which tabled until it's brought back to the city council. So as the onus is on you if you want to reintroduce it or not, or if you want to accept the proposals done in the procedure, which incorporates the rule you're talking about and your proposed ordinance.
Understood. Thank you.
Ms. Hart.
And one thing too is if you look into section 9.6, where we talk about council disciplinary procedures, we really took into consideration all of the different the protocols, concerns of ethics and other rules that might be also with preliminary review, investigation if necessary, removal process. I mean, it took into account all of the things that was in the municipal code ordinance that you were suggesting. So once you read it, maybe it'll answer the question.
Sure, and I haven't gotten that far yet.
No,
So,
understood.
so are we able, I would like to motion to actually table the ordinance and bring it back. I'd actually would like to bring it back when we actually have a full council. If it is after reading the rules, procedures, and if we're all agreeable to that, then maybe this doesn't come back, but I would like to table it for now, especially because we don't have a full council.
Okay, and that's perfect.
And I haven't gone through the rules
Would you
entirely.
like to bring it back for the study session next week and then decide at the study session whether we want it on the next regular meeting agenda?
Sure.
Okay, because that can definitely be part of our discussion next week.
Sure.
I think there's a lot of merit to that.
Sure. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, that was sort of my vision with having it on the study session, so there could be a really good, robust conversation and, you know, figure out if there were further adjustments to be made.
Yeah, and I agree with your point on, it would be nice to have a full council for the vote on this. Because that way, 4 of us are telling the other 3 what they're going to do. So, all right, very good. Is there any further questions or comments on this item? All right, moving forward. Council member reports, mayor's appointments for boards and commissions. We do have applications and we want to take care of that in November. We're going to be meeting. And so we will, I hope, bring some names forward at our first regular meeting in November. And if you know of somebody that wants to apply for something and get an application in, the committee would be happy to review that and take a look at it. And I know it's been announced on our website and I've seen it in the paper. I've seen it all over the place that we do have some vacancies. And so if you'd like to fill those applications in, that'd be lovely. Other reports, announcements, and or questions by council. Mr. Beeler.
Nothing to report.
Nothing to report. Miss Ripley.
I do want to thank Raul. I talked to him about all the tractors and the equipment and stuff around town, and Greg Sleeve got back to me on that. And so I wanted to give the city manager the pamphlet that he gave me. I think we need to look into it to investigate it.
Sure.
So just to check and see what's going on. But I think we all need to make a point of trying to get to council on time. It's disruptive when we don't come in on time, and it's just a respectful thing. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Ms. Frausto.
I didn't have anything to report, but the fun thing is that I ran to Mr. Gonzalez over on 6th Street, and he's doing his city manager duties, visiting small business owners and local businesses, which I think it's amazing. So big kudos to you. I think I shared this with him after the fact, that it is important for us city council members. He was in the middle of having a conversation with Guy Mahoney. It's just really important to come out and be in community and introduce ourselves, and we are here because community elected us to be here. So I think the more we are in community, the more that we are introducing ourselves to small businesses and asking, how can I show up and how can I support? I know that we're all busy, the work is inundating, and sometimes something has to give, but I hope the last thing has to give is the interaction and the presence of us in our community. So just served as a good reminder, and
Thank you.
yeah, and more work to come on that, because I'd love to somehow facilitate.
You're coming out with me.
Yeah, all right. Take me out of the ballgame.
Sounds good.
That's it, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Hart.
Just a couple of things coming forward. This next week, we will be having our rules committee again on 8 o'clock on Wednesday morning.
This week? No,
Not this week, next week.
November, aren't we?
Right, November. How come, I know, it's just on my, it's just on my ongoing, I'm sorry, excuse me. But we do have the YV COG on 16th, which is Wednesday night. It will be in the new library in Union Gap, which I'm kind of excited to go see. Yeah, you're right, it's in November.
Yeah, November 6th.
Yeah, I have it as an ongoing thing. I felt like it, you know. I wasn't able to attend the spaghetti dinner that they had for the Sunnyside court yesterday afternoon, but I understood it was really well attended, and a lot of good work was done there. The Police Foundation was supportive of that. I know that they're also coming up with some fun things at the community center with the Fall Festival. I think that's coming up on around the 26th, I think. Is that right? 19th or 26th? For the Fall Festival, but I don't know anybody here from Parks and Rec. Raul, do you know, happen to know, just off top?
No, I don't have the exact date.
Yeah, I don't, I thought I had it here, but it's coming up. And lots of groups are gonna be dressing up in costumes for that, so that'll be fun. I'm intending on attending the Zoom meeting for the Yakima County Homeless Coalition tomorrow. And so I will probably have something to bring back at our next meeting on that.
Perfect, thank you. So for myself, I've been a little bit busy. I do want to comment on the comments about the senior center. One of the tactics I used as a teacher in high school, the only way to get response and discussion from high school students is to get them a little bit worked up. And so I would throw something out there that would stir the pot pretty good. And apparently I have not relinquished that tactic, because when I made the comment about the cold weather shelters for our homeless, it was mentioned that the senior center would be perhaps a place, because somebody had suggested that to me. So I brought that up, threw it out there, and boy, did I get a response from that. We had the petition handed to us this evening, and that is only a small part of the response. The public is not really wild in favor of that. My intention was to start a discussion. And I got people thinking about it, at least. Now, I know we had a member of the public coming up and speaking, saying that they had been involved in that sort of thing. And with very limited success, of limited people taking advantage of that situation. But my hope is that we get an agency such as what that member of the public was talking about, who says, yes, we're willing to do that if people show up and are able to have people maybe on standby. I know the city's got some mattresses and different items left over from last year that could be used. And then if we do see a serious cold weather event, we can publicize that. There's a place for them to go. It doesn't have to be on city facilities, but I just do not like the idea of people out on our streets who have no place to go, and we cannot give them any kind of an option. I know many of them will choose to stay indoor or stay outside and live their life independently because there's no rules, but still we need to make that available. I'm not in favor of just turning our backs on people and letting them freeze. I just have a real problem with that. And so, and especially, I was surprised that there were families whose homes, and homes in quotation marks, they live in inadequate housing and they don't have the ability to heat those homes very well. We had entire families that showed up. And I just, it really bothers me that people have to suffer that way. And I think we should be able to find some way to keep them warm in these types of events. So that's where I was going with that. I have no intention of bumping the seniors out. I don't really want to use the community center again either. That's not my intention, but I did want to get a conversation started. Also, I had a conversation with David Swales. He approached us at our last meeting, showed us some pictures of the damage that was done, and he and I talked for a good period of time. We have tried different times to take steps to help resolve his problems, and he's got a number of issues. He's not the only one. This is a problem that's going on, I understand, around town, vandalism, damaging to vehicles, breaking windows out, and that sort of thing. And trying to work with property owners and citizens to see what we can do to solve that. I got suggestions. I know he met with the police department after he appeared at council as well. It's not just one individual, and we do need to take that serious. And so I commend the police department for taking extra steps. I know our chief has issued some different statements trying to get the officers a little more involved in that and keeping an eye on some businesses and stuff. So I appreciate that. Thank you. I did attend the spaghetti feed yesterday. Being the parent of 4 daughters, we have known members of the Miss Sunnyside Court for many years. They've been classmates, friends of my children. And so, have that event kind of near and dear to our hearts. And so I got to attend to that. I found out that they are tremendously in debt already because of the float has not been functioning well. They've only been able to use that float in about half of the events that they're supposed to be in. That float will break down at the beginning of a parade and they end up walking through the parade or getting towed or riding somebody's pickup or something. And it's not a good look. And so trying to figure out ways to fix that, I got into a conversation with the father of one of the princesses who is a mechanic. And he and I started cooking up some ideas. I have a good friend who likes to rebuild wrecked cars. And there's a website where he starts searching. We sat down last night and found a list of vehicles. We got talking about, okay, what's going to be required for this? So we're trying to come up with a way to fix the float or replace the float. And we're going to try to do that as cheaply as possible. I don't know how much the city can contribute to that, if anything, but I just want it out there that I am making some steps in order to help improve that situation. These young ladies are ambassadors for our city and they do an excellent job. They're enthusiastic about what they do and they just really promote a good image for Sunnyside. And I think it's part of us as citizens, not as council, but as citizens to help in that if possible. So I don't know how much they raised yesterday. It was a good event. It was fun. They had the spaghetti feed. It was an auction. There was a silent auction. I spent a whole bunch of money on cake and cookies. So I went out of there a little over $100 lighter than when I came in, and that wasn't even counting the spaghetti feed. So that was pretty good. All right. There's nothing else on council reports, Ms. Ripley.
I didn't even hear about the spaghetti feed until about 2 o'clock yesterday.
It was still going on.
I know, but
So about I think they had it on their Sunnyside ambassadors.
Yeah, I heard about it at noon.
yeah.
But they've been advertising it for several weeks on their Facebook page.
Maybe I
Yeah.
don't have their Facebook.
I didn't see it until yesterday either. So
Thought about going by and giving them a donation because
they probably still appreciate it.
Yeah. But okay.
all right, carrying on. Upcoming council meetings, Madam City Clerk.
Okay, so the next meeting will be October 21st. It'll be a study session at 6 p.m. And you'll be receiving a presentation regarding an airport hangar loan application, Parks and Rec Community Center plans for 2025, an update on public defenders with Ms. Enquist. And then we'll be discussing translation services and also amending the council standing subcommittee meeting section of the code. Also discussing the ordinance that Councilor Frausto presented, and then also review the rules of procedure. And after that, the regular meeting would be October 28th at 6 p.m.
All right, if there's items that need to be added to the agenda, please get them the Monday before the meeting, so a week in advance, to make sure that everybody has a chance to get them where they're supposed to be. All right, City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a few things I wanted to talk about. Thank you, Councilwoman, for giving me props on the outreach, and it was great to see you out there. And we had a chance to talk to Mr. Mahoney, who's been in the community for 17 years, and that's something I've been doing at least once a week minimum, sometimes a couple of times, and I can truly say that the community really appreciates seeing me out there, and I get a lot of feedback, and I can say we have a lot of dedicated people, which I'm so proud to be here because they really want to be in Sunnyside. Met with the owner of Corona Furniture and his wife, and he lives in Sunnyside. He's a stakeholder. He was excited to see me, and and he pledged whatever I can do for the city, just let me know. So when you hear stories like that, people entrenched, and when they really appreciate that you're out there and working on behalf of the council, and bringing back information for this group, and how we can better the city. But I feel it's just small steps like that we could take, and so just happy to do it. And really one of my favorite parts of the job is getting out there and talking to those folks. Want to invite the public to Derek Broughton's basically introduction to the public, if you will. So this Wednesday at 12 p.m., we've invited developers and business owners to the fire hall. 12 p.m. So it's open to the public and just an opportunity to really meet and greet Derek and let him articulate his vision. And that's something the business community is really anxious about, is really sort of a collaborative spirit and, working with the community. And so just really excited to have Derek here. And as our clerk mentioned, the Zoom translation services is something we'll talk about at the study session. And maybe transition away from the Zoom option. We haven't gotten a ton of folks jumping on there, but maybe more traditional services will be more effective. I've been looking at some AI options. With the technology nowadays, you can actually get services translated in any language. Obviously, there's a cost with everything. So I think it's just weighing some of those options and figuring out where we go from here. So that's about it. Other than that, staying busy. Thank you, Debbie, for all your work getting the budget right, and thank you to staff who's been working very hard. Thank you, Commander, for coming, and I appreciate you being here tonight. So yeah, really good representation. And the only thing I'll leave you with is thank you guys for wearing all the coats. Everybody really noticed how sharp you were looking. I was telling staff the ladies are way outclassing the men, so they had to step up their game a little bit. So.
All right, thank you, sir. And I do want to commend staff for the hard work that you've been doing as well. Every time I walk into City Hall, where I'm used to just being able to walk into somebody's office and talk with them, everybody is busy in a meeting somewhere. Even if I need to talk to the clerk, she's got somebody there. Everybody is nose to the grindstone lately. It's been quite impressive. So yeah, carry on. You're doing excellent. So next item on our agenda, item 11 says executive session, but if you don't see an RCW behind it, that executive session is there as a placeholder just in case we need it, which tonight we don't need. So we're not going to be having an executive session. So if there's no other business to come before council, this meeting is adjourned at 8:15 p.m. Thank you, everyone. All right, turn that petition into use.